Today's video is brought to you by Darkside Games Las Vegas. They have the best selection in the Valley of sealed product ranging from Magic to Pokemon to One Piece, Flesh and Blood, everything in between. They also have a website, DarksideGames.com, that boasts an inventory of over 2 million singles to help you build any deck you want to. There's also an accessories wall in the store. They got Dragon Shields, they have Ultra Pros, they got Zipfolios, they got 4 to 5 different kinds of deck boxes, as well as playmats and top loaders for you collectors out there. They also have a tournament every single day of the week. For any game the store carries, they will have a tournament if they get enough people. And if you do win the first FNM every month, you win $100 cash. And if you win any tournament, you get to take a picture in front of their logo, and they post it on social media. You let your friends know you're a winner and you're better than them, and who doesn't want to do that? So make sure you stop by Darkside Games the next time you're in Las Vegas. Darkside Games, the internet's local game store. Hey everybody, welcome to my Scarlet and Violet 1 set review. This is the tea table. I am Josh Hatter. So before we get into the translations, and we will be going through every card, so make sure you sit down and grab a good snack. The big thing about this is EXs are back. So EXs have had a couple incarnations here. These are lowercase EXs, which means you do have to evolve from an actual basic. So if you have a Lucario EX in your deck, you do have to play Riolu. If you had a Magnezone, you got to evolve for Magneton, so on and so forth. So we're going to go through both of the sets from Japan that are going to make up our Scarlet and Violet set. So we're just going to go down the list. Some cards we will spend more time on. Some cards we're going to be like, wow, that's a card they had to print. But I do want to jump right in. So we're going to start with Cacnea here. It's pretty generic. It's got the basic you take 3 damage counters if it's damaged by an attack, which might not be like a bad card at a pre-release kind of a thing. I don't think it's good enough for GLC, but it's like a thing you can start at the pre-release. And then it does evolve into Cacturn, which does the same thing. It does 110 for 3. The basic does 30 for 2, but the counter-attack needles put 30. You put a Rocky Helmet, they're taking 50. I'm just saying, in a limited environment, if you get this card, that might not be a bad card to play, because it could punish your opponent for attacking you. Then we got Skiddo, just looking adorable. We got Gogoat, sure is a Pokemon card they made. We got the adorable Smoliv. We got 2 Smolivs in the set. This one does 30. This one heals 30. That's fine. They're not bad. But we got to see what they become. And they are becoming a Dolliv 20 and then 40 during your opponent's next turn. If any Pokemon tries to attack, flip a coin. Tails, that attack doesn't happen. Also, a good pre-release card. But there's one more evolution. Arboliva. Sorry if I mispronounce these names. A lot of these Pokemon are new to me. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may heal all damage from one of your Pokemon. Now, it is a Stage 2, but that is really good. If you can just like get that, if we have like Togekiss VMAX still, that wasn't rotating, you just like pop a 2/2 line in here. Your opponent heals, you don't have to use Cheryl, you get to keep going. This is a card, some point, I don't know when, but this is definitely a card I would look out for in like a stall-ish type, a tank type deck. Like if you were playing Colossal VMAX and you're like, you know what, I want to heal because I don't want to Cheryl, this would definitely be a thing we're looking at. And then we got Torkoal here. I saw people talk about Torkoal just because it's super fun. Flip a coin for each fire, it does 80 times the number of heads, so you know hilarity can ensue. If you want to play this in expanded, you can play Welder and do a bunch of turn 1 stuff. You got all the stadiums to help you get the fire energy on your Pokemon as well. Torkoal will definitely be a fun deck for sure, no matter what. I expect videos out there, maybe even for me too, of Torkoal just flipping like 8 heads and laughing at a Lugia or like a Mew VMAX. Like, Torkoal just destroyed that Pokemon. That's crazy. So then we move on to Charcadet here. Pretty generic, basic, 30 discard, Heat Blast, 60, whatever. But it evolves into Armarouge, and I love this card a lot. I have a video coming up of some gameplay of Arceus Armarouge versus Mew. That was a very good match. So Armarouge says, as often as you'd like to your turn, you may move a fire energy attached to one of your bench Pokemon you're active. So the thing here is, it doesn't have to be a fire Pokemon. You've noticed in the recent memory, every card's like, it has to do it to a psychic Pokemon or a water, like its type. So this, moving to any Pokemon, I think has a lot of potential. And like the Arceus build, you do some Sharon's Care stuff, so you got like 3 or 4 switches. You switch, you move the energy to the new Arceus, you like Sharon's Care, up the other one, you know, boom. You still have the energy and you get more. It also lets you like, if you did a fire-based deck, you could use Radiant Charizard and like they knock it out, you clear, you're just right back attacking. You could even like put Weirdeer in a deck like this. I know Weirdeer does move it to itself, but if you want to switch to different Pokemon after Weirdeer gets there, I think this card has a lot of possibilities, and it being a Stage 1 is really cool, and I think this is definitely one of the better cards in the set. Maybe not right now, but maybe your set or two when we get more and more cards that could combo with it. Then we got a Magikarp, good old Magikarp. If heads, it does 10 to one of your opponent's Pokemon. That's cool. But it evolves into Gyarados EX. So there's this new type of Pokemon from the Scarlet and Violet video game, Terrestrial. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. My bad. Um, Everyone was really, really hyped, and we're gonna be honest. So far, nobody is excited because they just seem to have this barrier ability. This Pokemon does not take any damage from attacks while on the bench. So if you played around Primal Clash, there were things called ancient traits where they were like built-in things like this on cards. Except ancient traits were like there was an article that was like if you knock out a Pokemon, take an extra prize. There was like this card doesn't take effects. There was like no bench damage. So hopefully in the future, I'm thinking like what they did with Megas, because when they first made Mega Pokemon, they didn't have Spirit Links, so nobody really played Mega Pokemon because they had to end your turn. So hopefully we are going to get some sets in the future here, and we're like, oh, that's busted. Because the whole thing about the mechanic is it changes their type. And right now, Gyarados is water, but I want like my Gyarados to be lightning. And I think that'd be really cool. But we'll wait and see on the mechanic. Let's take a look at what this Gyarados actually does. So it does have the built-in ability. So it's not like an ability. So it can't be shut off by like Pat to the Peak or anything. But it does Waterfall 3 for 100. And in typical Gyarados fashion, takes 5 energy to attack. 180. If your opponent's active, has any damage counters, it does 360. I like this card. I really is unfortunate Frostmoth is rotating. Because I know it takes 5. But 360 is a lot. The only lists I've kind of seen with it so far in Japan are Lost Boxes, obviously, because you can Mirage Gate to it. So this is a card I hope in the future, because that second attack is insane, can find something, whatever that may be. We'll move on here to Buizel. Just adorable looking. We got Floatzel. 50 plus 20 for each water attached to this Pokemon. Pretty generic. We got Bruxious. Search for 3 basic energy. Put them in your hand. 60 for 2. We got Wiglet. My boss saw Wiglet today, and he's like, what is happening there? And I was like, you know how it be sometimes, Pokemon. Heads prevent all damage done from and effects of attacks to this Pokemon. And there's a second Wiglet, Dig a Bit. Flip a coin of heads discard the top card of your opponent deck, which goes with Wugtrio, because Wugtrio's attack here. Flip 3 coins for each heads. Discard the top card of your opponent's deck. This will also be a deck. I will build this deck. I will play this deck at locals probably. I am very excited. It's just funny. One of my coworkers, Noah, loves Mill, and I was like, yo, there's a Mill deck, and he's like, nah, that doesn't count. I'm like, it was pretty counting. This card, if we had locals like League Challenges and League Cups, I could see Wugtrio just taking some stuff, and like there'll just be an online event, someone's gonna play a Wugtrio and just never get Tails, and they're just gonna run away with it. Or even in expanded randomly, where you have like cards that make your coin flips heads, your next flip, or you can flip again, those kind of things. Wugtrio definitely a sleeper for me in the it's hilarious now, but you give it 6 months, you're like, do you see a Wugtrio got 15th in that regional? I think it's going to be happening. Then we got Dundozo. Crazy in the video game. Actually not bad in the card game. It does Vent Wrath. 50. For each Tatsuguri in your disc pile, which we'll talk about in a moment. Then 120 for 4, don't worry about it. It's got 160 on a 1 prize, it's pretty good. I think this card suffers the most from Twin Energy rotating because you do only have double turbo, and the downside is the reduction of damage. Now granted, the more damage would like you could knock out like RCSV with Twin Energy because you could have a choice bell and do 230. So now you'd only be doing you would be only doing 210. But is that really going to matter in the long run if you're a 1 prizer hitting 2 or 3 prizers? Probably not. I just feel like Twin Energy could be like a little boost to the archetype. But for what it is, this is definitely going to be a 1 prize deck everyone tries out, and they're going to be like, this is the next 1 prize deck. And 160 HP on a 1 prizing basic. That's pretty good. So what does the Tatsuguri do? Tatsuguri says, Preparation Search. Search up to 2 basic water attachment on one of your basic Pokemon. That's not even bad. Like, you're just like, do it, you get it knocked out, you get to attack for a bunch of damage. That kind of thing. Mostly you just want to discard it. So you got Burnett, Ultra Ball. We are down Quick Ball, but there's enough ways, I think, to draw cards and discard in the format where you could just do this and it's okay. Like, you can discard them and you're not going to have too much of a problem. But I look for this deck to be the hype one prizer coming out of the set that sometimes you just run your opponent over turn 1 and you knock out their MUV or whatever, and they're just like, what happened? You're already up 2. And there'll be the games where you're like, wow, this is the worst deck I've ever put in my life. I'm going to lean toward the first one, and I say you could definitely get to tier 2 if somebody has the right build of like trekking shoes and Pokestops and stuff like that, to just do the one thing to put your Pokemon in the discard pile, with the downside being no twin energy for the 20 less damage, and also only 4 energy in your deck. So that's going to probably also be tough to combine with cards like Pokestop, but we'll wait and see how that works. We got Wattrel. I didn't know this was a Pokemon before this. I'm going to be 100% with you. I was like, what is that? Is that a Swellow? But yellow? So I'm like, oh, that's probably the generic bird of the generation. We'll draw a card, whatever. We got Static Shock, does 20. That one's probably better. And then it evolves into Kilowattrel. 50 to 1 opponent's bench, and 140 discard of lightning. This also feels like a good pre-release card, because it takes 2 colorless, and so it doesn't really matter, and it does 50 to 1 your opponent's Pokemon. And if you happen to face, like, a Dundozo deck, it's, they are weak. So that is pretty cool thing to have. So I think if you get this in your pre-release, for sure, you're going to want to try to put this card in your deck. Then we move on to Ralts here. This is not the best Ralts that we have. There's a Ralts that does 10, and your opponent, you like choose one of their attacks and use it. So definitely try to use their Ralts. Same with Corellia. This Corellia isn't even bad. 60% for each energy on your opponent's active. It does 30. But we do have the Corellia from Silver Tempest that says discard a card, draw 2 cards, which is going to combo with Gardevoir EX, what I say is the best EX from this set, has proven to be the best EX from this set, despite other ones getting hype. Gardevoir EX, or Stage 2, evolves from Corellia. So often as you like, you may attach a basic Psychic from your discard pile to one of your Psychic Pokemon, and if you do, you put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. You cannot knock it out. Which I think is a fair thing to put on it, because you could do some weird, like, oh, my opponent's going to be in Roxanne range, let me knock out my Pokemon so I can Roxanne them. So I think that was a great thing they did put on the card to stop that stuff, even though that's kind of cool. And then it does 190 and heal any special condition. So the way Gardevoir has been built, there is a bunch of other Gardevoir/Gallades legal. There's a lot. So people have been kind of using Gardevoir X as the support, and then playing like Zacian V, the Psychic one, or the other Gardevoir or Gallades, or like whatever Psychic Pokemon you want. So the great thing about this is you just like your Psychic Pokemon. It could be a basic Stage 1, it doesn't matter. You could play Gardevoir in your deck. The weakness of this being dark, I've noticed only matters if you are facing Single Strike Lugia, because they do play Tyranitar V and Yveltal, which are both dark, which is very unfortunate. But other than that, Gardevoir has proven to be a powerhouse. It has all the qualities you want of something that's really good, i.e., it accelerates and it has a built-in draw engine. And that's really what you want in a card. So it's being a Stage 2 is, I think appropriate. And it does have 310 HP, and that is pretty crazy. So this is the EX. Everyone's going to be looking out for. I like it a lot. I'm excited. So now every Psychic Pokemon that gets released from now until whenever this card rotates, you're like, you can play with Gardevoir? Maybe? Or you get to look at old Psychic Pokemon and be like, we playing this Golurk V right now? Who knows? So, definitely the best EX in my opinion, and something you're going to want to look out for. Then we got Drifloon, Balloon Bomb, 30 free damage card on this Pokemon. Not actually bad. With Memory Capsule, on Drifblim, you can do 300 damage for 2. Just saying. You put that with Gardevoir, 300 damage for 2. But also, Drifblim not even bad either. It does Gust, and then you put 8 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon any way you like. So both of them are actually pretty good. You could do the Memory Capsule, or, various ways to, depending on what format you're playing, obviously, ways to make you use that attack. So, like, depending on what format you're playing, or what your deck is, you can, just use those attacks. There's, like, Shrine of Memories and Expanded. I know we're not really talking about Expanded, but I love Expanded. So if a card I think is good in Expanded, I'm going to, talk about it, especially because like Memory Capsule's rotating, so it's just one of those cards. I'm like, dang, that'd be cool if this card was still around. So card to look out for. If they ever make another type of card like that, look for Drifloon, Drifblim, Gardevoir to do 300 for 2, and be a really cool deck. Then we got Dedenne. Pretty generic heads, discard energy opponent's Pokemon. Then we got Fido. 20. We got other Fido. To your opponent's next turn, Pokemon takes 30 less. That'd definitely be the one I want to play. Then we got Douchebun. Prevent all damage by this attack from your opponent's fire Pokemon. Fire ever gets good. You just put this in your deck and be like, that's crazy. We got Flittle. No idea what this was. I literally saw this Pokemon. I'm like, I don't know what this Pokemon is. Generic 40 HP, 20, and switch it with one of your bench. Then evolves into Espathra. To your opponent's next turn, defending Pokemon can retreat. And it does 30 plus 50 for each attack on your opponent's active. That one's actually pretty good. 50 adds up a lot. 3 energy might be one too much, but it is psychic, so you can put it with Gardevoir. Then we move on to Meditite. Does 10. Then we got Medicham. Bullseye aim 30. Choose one of your opponent's Pokemon. Active Pokemon's attack. You cannot use it. That's not even bad. And then kick shot 90 if Tails it does nothing. Just play it at Purelease if you can. Just 90 them. Whatever. Or, especially the first attack, is a lot of cards people are going to be playing. They're not going to be a lot of switch cards unless they're in your special pack. So you just be like, you can't use that attack, and you can make your opponent run out of resources to maybe attack you later in the game. So great pre-release card if you get that one. Then we got Riolu, pretty generic Riolu things. Then we got Lucario. If any of your fighting Pokemon were knocked out by damage to your opponent's attack last turn, this does 120 more damage. Insane pre-release card. Not even a bad regular card, because we are getting a Lucario X like battle deck later in the year, I believe. So you can just play both of them. And you also have the other. There's a lot of Lucarios. This is definitely, if you're playing a Lucario deck at some point, you should play this in there, because 150 on a one prizer. Plus, if you got Choice Belt, 180. So definitely a card to look out for. I really, really like this one. Then we got a cool looking Sandile, which is pretty generic. We got Crookerruck. If your opponent has exactly one prize, it does 120. But we got Crocodile. 50. Flip a coin until you get tails for each head. Discard energy your opponent's active. And then Earthquake 180. 30 to each your bench. This card's actually not bad for limited or GLC, I think. The first attack can be really, really annoying. And then 180 for 2. Sure. You just get him out of there. Like, you're like, I get it. Oh, got your big guy. They don't knock it out. You're like, I'll just limit my bench and damage my guy. It doesn't really matter. I like this card a lot. I'm assuming it's going to be a foil rare, because I think all rares are foils now. So, not really great in constructed, but limited and possibly GLC. I would be looking at that. And then we got Hawlucha. Big hype card going in the set. When you place Pokemon from your hand on your bench, you may choose up to 2 opponent's bench Pokemon. Put 1 damage card on each of them. So Scoop Up Net is rotating, which is fine. Really, this is not a card that should be designed to play with Scoop Up Nets. And it is just kind of better Zigzagoon. But Lost Box, various decks are playing one of them just to be like, alright, 10 damage. Rapid Strike Urshifu is playing it. Decks to play Medicham V are playing it. So it's definitely going to find a spot in decks. Not having Scoop Up Net does hurt it, but I think it is fair, so you cannot just crazily abuse the card and be like, hey, I'm going to do it 5 times this turn and then Medicham you and take an extra turn. Silly goose. Then we move on to Silicobra. Speaking of Silly Goose, Silicobra. Pretty generic there. Sandaconda, 120 for 3, and then Violent Dust Cloud. Discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, then your opponent shuffles are active into their deck. That's just fun. I don't know. That's just fun. That's what I got. That card's neat. It's hilarious. It sucks it takes 4, and you have to discard 2, but I get it. That's just one of those fun cards. They have like a Noctowl like that, I think, or like a Staraptor. They just get various Pokemon, those kind of things, and they're always fun in the end. Then we got Cloth, 50, and then 130. Pretty generic there, but 50 for 2, good pre-release card. We got Great Tusk EX, 40, and discard a Stadium. And then Gigantotusk, 250, and it does 50 to itself. I did do a video on this card. It being weak to Psychic is really unfortunate right now because of Mew, but it is just one of those generic fighting, hard-hitting deck. You'll see in a moment there's like a tool to help fighting Pokemon. And 250 on a basic is like pretty good. If Mew ever takes a dip, then I think you could bring out Great Tusk. And Gardevoir too. At least for Mew, you could play Drapion in your deck. But kind of Gardevoir, you're just like, oh, that's crazy. Then we got Koraidon EX. Once during a turn, you may attach up to 2 basic fighting energy from your discard pile to your basic fighting Pokemon in white. If you use this ability, your turn ends. It is fair that it ends, because imagine doing like 2 or 3 of them. Or they could have been like, you can't use more than 1 Down Cry. But I think doing 250 turn 1 with your Great Tusk, because of this, might have been too good. So I did understand where they're coming from there. And then it is 220, and during your next turn, this Pokemon can attack. So it's a pretty balanced card. Again, weak to Psychic. Not where you want to be going into the new format, but that's okay. This card definitely, it's someday. It's one of those. A lot of these cards are someday, because it's hard for them to like, oh, how you beat them in VMAX or one of those things. But a lot of these cards definitely I can see the potential, and like the base set of a new generation is always like, ah, oh, these guys are kind of whatever. And then like a year from now, we're like, oh my god, can you believe that? So I'm looking for those cards like once more rotations happen to definitely be powerful. And these cards should be like, if you give it a month probably, and they get super cheap because maybe they're not played at one of the big tournaments, you can just pick them up for a few dollars. They'll be really really great, and you can just have them later when their time comes. Grimer, 50 of their poison. Muck. When your Pokemon evolves or devolves, poison is not removed. I always love that effect. There's I think it was Dust Bowl Stadium. There was like a stadium that did that, like when they retreat. The new Pokemon's poison. I always love cards like this. Poison decks are cool. I wish Galarian Reason was rotating. Put that with Sneasler and do this. Whew, that'd be wild. Then we got Subviper. They're poisoned, and then if they're poisoned, it does 180. Pretty generic, like Subviper-esque thing it's doing. Yeah, I don't know. Pretty generic, not really impressive, but it looks cool. Then we got Krogunk here. Whop down. Any card that's got Whop down, I'm in. 40 damage, and then 10 would beat. But we got Toxicroak EX. Nasty Plot after 2 cards. That's always good. This is like a great pre-release card. Just because of that. Because you're in a pre-release, you're like, I'm just going to switch 2 cards I want. And then Toxic Ripper, 120. Your opponent's active is not poison. Put 6 damage counters instead of 1. So that's 180. And Sneasler, you're doing 200. And you could use Dark Patch. And you kind of don't really care if you have to put double turbo, because you're still doing 100 plus 60 to 80. I like Toxicroak a lot. I think it's underrated. The format might be too fast for the poison thing, but you never know. This is a card I could see sneaking up and like get a day 2 for sure. It'll take a couple regionals because people have to refine the list kind of a thing. You know, like, oh, the format's this, so we can put this in our deck to protect or something. But the poison is more annoying than people realize. So, this is a card I really like. I know it's generic as generic could be for Toxicroaks, but 180 200 for poison for 3, and just search 2 cards. Because remember, Marnie's rotating, so we only got Judge. And it's not weak to Psychic, and in fact Dark, which is great for Gardevoir and Mew. This card, when I first read it, I was like, okay, cool. But it's grown on me the more I've thought about it and like talked with friends about deck ideas. So this is one I could see sneaking up later, like how Whimsicott V-Star, like, whoa, where did that card come from? I can see this like being that. We got Ponyard, 10-20. We got Bisharp, 40, 120, 30 self. But it evolves now into King Gambit. This card's also sick. Generalship, as long as Pokemon's in play, the attacks of your base Pokemon do 30 more to your opponent's active. It does stack. It is a stage 2, but dang, if you could make this thing, I don't know what you could do with it. But that's a cool ability. It might be an ability that has to wait until VMAXs and V-Stars like officially rotate so the format, which does appear to be getting slower, gets slower. But dang. I think we're losing Pierce, which sucks. But this card has a lot of potential in something. It's this, or you play Ludicolo that makes you do 100. But I think it's one of those you have to what your deck's trying to do, because like Regieleki VMAX is 30-30. You know, it adds up. This is they do stay, so like Ludicolo, you don't have Scoop Up anymore. So this might end up like being slightly better in the long run if there's a deck that can play. So that's a big card to look out for. Then we got Varoom. They're poisoned. Varoom, 60. And Revaroom, you must discard an energy from your hand or use ability once in your turn. Draw and save 6. Which is pretty cool. The obviously disadvantage of it to Barrel is you have to have an energy. But it has been seeing play in Darkrai V-Star, because that deck runs like 15 Darks. So they've been playing like a 2-2 line, I believe. And then they got like Galarian Moltres V, Darkrai, you know, the whole thing. So that's the deck I see it in now. If you had the interesting part, like, too, is like, so that kind of deck is like, it runs Radiant Greninja and this. So you just have a bunch of those abilities. So like if you did the Armarouge deck, and you're like, I Greninja, and so you got to play like Radiant Charizard, and you got this, like, discard the fire. So this card is a card that will be in something. whatever energy deck it is, it will find a place for sure. And it's a pre-release card, so if you guys have a pre-release card, just help you draw through your deck, and it looks really cool too. Then we got Zangoose. Drag off, switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active, 30 new active per generic, and 80. Starly, yep, Staravia, and Staraptor, 60. Prevent your opponent's next turn. Prevent all damages Pokemon from base Pokemon. Pikachu VMAX at home, and then 1 energy, discard, or 180, sorry, discard energy. Then we got Lechonk. Repulsive Stench. Your opponent switches their active on their bench. Then we got Whimsy Tackle. And then we got Oinkalone EX. Alright. Definitely was like, this card is bad. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, Josh, you're ridiculous. Because it takes 1. Now, if your opponent doesn't have a big bench, you may not be doing a lot of damage. But it's 260. And you can play Sharon's Care with it. Which I thought was really cool. So, that might be a card to look out. It's popped up in like various deck lists as a 1/1. I'm also as 2/10 of Heads You Can't. I feel like it's supposed to say Tails. I'm gonna be honest with you. So I'm gonna say Tails, even though it says this Pokemon can't attack during your next turn. So that's fine too, because you just pick it up. And like it's saying, the Armarouge could be a deck with that thing. You got the switches there, and then you move the energy, pick it up. One of those things. So this is this card. I don't think it's insane, but I think it's a lot better than I gave it credit for the first time I read it, and that was on me. But it also looks cool. Balls from Lechonk, and everybody wants to play Lechonk. So those are all the Pokemon in the first set. Let's move to the trainers. We got Palpad coming back, shuffle 2 items or supporters from a discounted deck. Nest Ball's our new ball. Search your deck for base on your bench, shuffle your deck. So remember, it doesn't go into your hand, so do not get a Lumineon V with your Nest Ball. You're not going to have a good time. Rock Chest Plate. The fighting Pokemon on this card's statue takes 30 less. I think to note as well, we've touched on earlier, tool cards are no longer item cards. So you cannot search if you played cards that said get an item. If you use the Mew that's like the top 6, take an item, you cannot take a tool anymore. So do remember that. See how they're purple? They are their new own designation of card. Which probably is like there's something coming with tools, or, you know. They always change things up when a new set comes out, so I think this might be one of those things. Then we got Experience Share, staying in the format when your active is knocked out for damage by an opponent's deck. Move an energy to the Pokemon this card's attached to, pretty good. So we got Defiant Band. So they said this is all about comebacks. This is Scarlet and Violet. So they really haven't shown that so far. The comeback is like the game's slow, so you have time to come back. But we got Defiant Band. If you have more prize cards than your opponent, this attack does 30 more. This is attached to does 30 more your opponent's active. Not even bad. You know what? Just pop one of those. I think that'll be good later when like there's not a lot of V's, so you don't need Choice Belt. You can just pop Defiant Band and be like, comeback time, baby. Also, just in a pre-release, you're like, wow, that's crazy. 30 more, and now what are you going to do? Hope you don't have one. We got Jacques. Search for 2 evolutions. Pokemon, put them in your hand. Probably not good enough for standard play now. Maybe. Because you have Ultra Ball and stuff. And I think Pokemon Communication is going to come back eventually. Just like in a few sets, but that's just me. But great limited card there. Search for 2 evolutions, help you get them out. We got the generic grunt of the thing. Put an energy test your opponent's active on top of their deck. That's pretty good. That's in a stall deck. Get ready to get angry at that card, everybody. Heck yeah. Then we got Professor's Research, obviously, just because we 7. We got Penny. I love this card. Cards that do this just get played at some point. Return one of your base Pokemon when playing. All cards attached to your hand. So you don't have to discard. They don't have damage. You're not scuba bending. You don't have to discard anything because it's supporter. This is going to be in something. I don't know what something is. Maybe it's a stall deck. Maybe it's just a regular tank deck. I don't know, but this is going to be played. Penny will be played. There's no way this card doesn't get played at some point. You're just like, that card's insane. It just helps your opponent not knock out something. So this card will be played. I'm just not sure in what yet, because I'm not smart enough. Then the last card of Scarlet EX is Beach Court. The retreat cost of each player's base Pokemon is 1 colorless less. Sky or Bridge did the same thing. This card has been seeing play in, yes, a lot of decks, especially Lost Box. Since you don't scuba them anymore, you are able to just switch out your so you can like retreat Comfy, switch. So you get to do a bunch of Comfies. Maybe not 7 Comfies, but you get like 4, which is still pretty good turn 1 and like attack with Cramorant and stuff. And it's just kind of in decks that play Klefki, which we'll get to in a few moments on what that does. But yeah, the card's pretty good, and I wish it had a secret rare. So let's move to Violet EX here. Pineco does Pineco things. We got Heracross, 10 damage. Just deck does 30 more damage for each energy in your opponent's retreat cost. Not even like bad. Like not super bad. Like not the worst. We did lose Galar Mine, which sucks. To help with this card, because definitely not this card would be super play with like Leafeon, VMAX, and stuff. But who knows if they make another stadium later, or a card later in this review, we might see in a couple moments, to play with it as well. Then we got Scatterbug and Spoopa. They evolved the first time you play with them. Harken back to a Caterpie and Metapod we got there. And it becomes Pavilion. 50 if heads, your opponent's active is not affected by one special condition of your choosing. Just play this in the pre-release if you get it. I'll make a GLC deck from it. I know you can only play one, but I'll just be a special condition deck. Realistically, but if you get this ahead in the pre, it's like, oh, you're paralyzed. Oh, you only have 10 HP, you're poisoned. Like, this card, these are always fun cards, because you know you're just going to have a game where you get like 4 heads, and your opponent's just like, I don't want to play this anymore. Also does 110 for 2. Tarantula, 20 heads, your opponent's active is paralyzed. Then Tarantula, 30, Tails does nothing. But, then we get Spidops EX, did a video on this one. Your opponent's active, trick cost is 1 more, so you go back to that Heracross. And then stack does 90 plus 30 for each energy in your opponent's actives retreat cost. So the reason you would play Heracross in this is just because it is a 1 prize Pokemon. So this is your Galar Mine at home. If only we had Galar Mine still, this would be, I think, really, really, really busted. The downside of this card being played right now is Mew has 0 retreat cost, and that is very unfortunate. And that is not something you want to deal with. So if you just, look, if you have a bad match of Mew, it's gonna be unfortunate for a while, but not Mew. I think this card's really cool. I mean, mine personally with Leafeon, obviously, because the VMAX is 60, you know, it does like the same thing. So you just try to get a bunch of Spite Ups on your bench. But I think this card, again, has the potential, well, like most of the set does, and has a really cool alt art if you get a chance to see that one. Then we got a Toad's Cool, Fury Strike. They're asleep, but it evolves into Toad's Cruel. 30, choose an energy attach your opponent's active, move it to one on the bench. That is a good attack. That is an annoying attack. If you're playing Crushing Hammer, you're playing the Grunt, you're moving other energy around. This card's not bad. Also gonna be really good in pre-release, because they got a bench like weird stuff, and you're like, alright, move it away from your attacker, so now you're like weird basic, has 7 energy on it, and your opponent's confused. And then Triple Smash, 80 times my heads. You just do 240, whatever. Capsakid. Hedge your opponent's actions got burned. Other Capsakid. Switch to a basic fire and attach to this Pokemon. Alright. And then we got Scovillain. 20 opponents burned. Super Hot Yeehaw. If this Pokemon has a fire, it does 180. So, especially in limited, you're just like, attach, turn 2, 180 in my pre-release. That's crazy. You're probably not winning if you can't knock this out. So that was really cool. Also, Super Hot Yeehaw. I'll just want to announce that. I don't even know if that's the English name of the attack. I don't really care. I think I'm just going to call it that. Then we go to Growlithe here. Search for up to 2 fire attachments Pokemon show your deck. And then we got Arcanine EX, the other terrestrial Pokemon. Again, it does have the unfortunate, not exciting ability. It doesn't take any damage from attacks while on the bench. But it does its 30% for each damage counter on this Pokemon, which is pretty good. And then 250 for 3, discard 2 energy. So that part of the card, not bad. 30% for each damage. It can take a hit. It's got 280. So it's definitely a tank thing you could do for sure. Again, just the terrestrial clause on the card is unfortunate for now. But this is also a card I really like because it's just fire. Just fire, fire. Armarouge, going to keep going back to the card. Play with this deck. Fire! There's some Zoroark decks running around from Evolving Skies. We put that in play. You put a couple other Pokemon in play. There's the Rapidash where you discard a fire and your fire Pokemon do 30 more. There's a whole crazy amount of things for this card to have potential. This would, I think, be a League Cup deck for sure. I don't know about regional level yet, but that's not to say it cannot be soon. Then we go to Houndour, Bite Flare, Houndoom, 150 for 3, discard a fire energy, and 30. We got Slowpoke, heal 30. We got a cool looking Slowbro. As often as you like, during a turn, you may move a damage counter from one of your Pokemon to this Pokemon. So it would be one of those you want a Cheryl, so you can move up to 90, kind of a thing. If we had Big Charm still, that'd be great. You can move up to 110, or if you had 2 in play. So, again, is there going to be a tank deck where you just put a bunch of Slowbros in play and be like, here's my giant Pokemon you cannot knock out. If we ever get a Wailord EX that's got like 350, Wailord Slowbro, it's going down. Then we got Clauncher, which evolves into Klotzer. 160, can't attack next turn, 50, pretty generic. We got Satotl, does 30, does 10. Satitan, Confront 50, and then Sweeping Tackle 200, minus 20 for each damage turn on it. It's fine. The card looks cool. The Pokemon looks pretty cool. I don't know. Might be a good pre-release card if you can not get damage on the bench. You get a free 200, and that's probably going to get you a knockout. Then we got Magnemite. Switch with one of your bench, does 10. Magneton 20, and then it knocks itself out, but it does do 90. And then we got Magnezone EX. Really, this card was revealed at Worlds, when it was like the preview of what's coming. Energy Cross 50. For each energy attached to all your opponent's Pokemon. That is a good attack. That could be a very good attack against Arceus and Gardevoir decks. There's definitely a plus out of there. And then 220, 30 to itself. That's fine. Pretty good. I mean, 220 not really knocking out stuff. But 50 for energy attached to all your opponent's Pokemon. And especially if it is energy. So I believe it's just energy. So double turbos 2. Not energy cards. And that is really, really sick. If you can make a good Magnezone deck, and like, because the fighting might not be super popular, because of Gardevoir, you know, being weak to Psychic and Mew, Magnezone might be pretty good. Your opponent's like Arceus. I'm like, alright, how many energy? You get 6, cool. You're playing Gardevoir, you put 5 energy into play, but you also just took 100 damage. You're going down. We got Pachirisu, can't be paralyzed. 10 plus 20 for each of your opponent's bench lightning Pokemon. It's fine. I've seen it pop up in some lifts. Not super impressed, but it is a 1-prizer, so I think it's just like one of those. You can put in Regieleki decks, VMAX decks, and then it does like 30 more anyway. So it might not be a bad 1-prizer for like that type of deck. Everyone freaked out. They saw Junk Hunt. Search for an item, put in your hand. 20 if heads are paralyzed. I don't think Junk Hunt carries as much weight as they used to for the control decks, but it did give people hope, and people like wrote them anyway. We got Toxel. It's 20. We got Toxtricity. Choose 2 cards from your opponent's hand without looking. Play shuffle from another deck. That could just be annoying in a stall deck too. You put a bunch of Crushing Hammers. You've done the thing where you put the energy on top of their deck. Then you make them shuffle that energy into their deck, so they might not have energy to attack. They have no hand. This also card can be annoying. I think the one that mills is rotating. Otherwise, you could just like have both in your deck, which would be pretty wild. But this card definitely be annoying, especially actually in a pre-release, because you don't have a lot of like things in your deck. You're probably not opening a 4/4 of something that's not in your special pack. So it could definitely help you there, I think, in like stalling your opponent out. And it also just does 120 for 3 and 20 itself, which is fine. Then we got Pommy. Hedge opponent's active paralyzed. 10, 20. Thundershock. Hedge opponent's Pokemon paralyzed. And we got, so that one is Pamo. We got Pamat. Once your turn, you may search deck for a lighting attached to this Pokemon. Shuffle your deck. This card is good. It sucks that it's a Stage 2, but it is 230 for 3 and discard all energy. You just play with Flaffy. I want this card to work. 230 on a Pokemon that was 130, but it's a Stage 2, is a little awkward. But you might have to play like Klefki, which we'll get to in a second, to stall. I don't know. It's going to be tough. But this is like, you're like 230 for 3. And he gets an energy? What's happening right now? It's got all this stuff. It also has free retreat costs. So they just, let's give it all the tools, guys. But we're going to make it a Stage 2. And like the 130 is kind of whatever, because you're probably going to knock down next turn. But the Stage 2 part is sad. But I think it's pre-release card, so if you open it, just beat people with it. It'll be hard to beat in the pre-release. We got Miraidon EX. Once during your turn, you may search for 2 basic lightning and put them on your bench. So you can you play it, you use it, you get itself and something else, and you can use the other one. You got 5 bench. 220, can't attack. This is being played in Regieleki VMAX decks and Flaffy decks. This card is definitely very good for the ability alone to help you set up. You don't have to worry about your Nest Balls or Quick Ball going away or Ultra Ball or Battle VIP Pass. You're just going to be able to get that one. And since it is not when you play from your hand, you can Nest Ball for it, which is really cool. And then just boom, use your ability. When we filmed our versus video and I was playing Miraidon, I was like having 5 bench every turn 1. I was like, that was crazy. I just did it. Really cool card. Right now, definitely a lot better than the fighting one. For now. Because it doesn't end your turn. But time will tell on that one. But yes, this card, if you're playing a lightning deck, you play at least 1 or 2 anyway. Right? Because it helps you do everything and just set up your Pokemon. Drowsy. Your opponent chooses one of the bench Pokemon and switches it while they're active. And then we got Pendulum Manipulation, Metronome. Flip a coin of heads, choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon attack, and use it. It's a fun card. It's fun. You know, just have some fun stuff. Shuppet, 10 if heads your opponent can play items. Then Bayonet EX. So Bayonet EX got so when Bayonet EX was revealed, Twitter was like, "This is it. Item lock is back. Here we go." This card is saying no play in Japan, and I think it's because it does 30. Item lock, great. You know, against Lost Box, great. Against Lugia, that plays Dark Pokemon, probably not so great. Lugia might be the reason this isn't played, because they're like, oh, I just have Dark Pokemon in my deck anyway. But it does 30, your opponent can't play items. And Poltergeist, we all have a Poltergeist attack. Look at your opponent's hand. This attack does 60 for each trainer card in your opponent's hand. That's 250, but I think it needs like one of those, like, because like Lightning and Water and Fire have like the Arcanine Ultra Zapdos or like various pump things. I think this needs that. You could, I've seen it with the Inteleon engine. Now we do lose the good Drizzile and Inteleon, but they do have the Inteleon that puts 20 damage on something. So I've seen some lists like that. I've seen Inteleon VMAX put water on the bench and move damage with Radiant Alakazam. There are ways to play it. I've seen, I believe Goon Squad TCG made a video with, or was talking about, there's like, they play with Zoroark, because you can't get Stage 1 with Zoroark, and they play like Spide Ups in it to stop retreating and lock stuff in. So there are ways to do it. You might have to get creative. Kind of a thing to make it work. But I hope someone does make it work, because when Bayonet's good, I'm happier guy. Move on to Flabébé. Yep, 20. Floette, 30 if heads it does 30 more, and heal 30, that's not bad, that's fine. Now we got Florges. As long as Pokemon in play, your Pokemon have no weakness. And then it's 120. Then depending upon when it's 30 less. That first ability, Vision Channeler does that. If you can get that in play, I don't know if you'll ever be able to, but somehow a Gardevoir deck can like put this in there, might be unstoppable. You're just like, hey. Or the fighting deck, you're just like, I'm gonna put one in somehow. Obviously, easier said than done, because you can just say it, you know. But this guy's interesting. I mean, Chandeler's not played, but we'll see if Florges maybe gets some play. Then we move to Klefki. The annoying star of the show. Prank Lock. So this active. Its Pokemon is active. Each player's basic, so there's both you and your opponent, have no abilities other than Prank Lock. So it's better than Polion, because it stops everything. So your opponent cannot Miraidon. Your opponent cannot Lumineon. Your opponent cannot Radiant Greninja. It does not get shut off by Path to the Peak. And you can just sit there, and if you play like a switch deck, like Regieleki, there's a Regieleki Klefki deck, you just 30 and you keep switching into Klefkis, and you're doing 30, 60, 90, depending if you're Regieleki VMAXs, and your opponent's... Oh, that's crazy. The secret is putting this in a deck that can also just beat Lugia, or Gardevoir. So, you can just pop a couple of these in your deck anyway, you go first, you just switch into it. You get 2 in play, your opponent can't even escape rope out of it. Can be pretty good. And that does 10, discard a tool. But this card, this is going to be an annoying card. There will definitely, I will see some tweets. I can't believe I lost, my opponent opened double Klefki twice. It's going to be me. I'm going to be that guy opening double Klefki twice. So cool card. It's a Klefki. It laughs at. So we got a Flower Ring versus a pair of keys. Epic Battles 2023. Then we got Graveyard. 10 for each Psychic Pokemon discard pile. Then we got another Graveyard. Look at your opponent's hand. Choose a supporter. Put it on the bottom of their deck. That's annoying. Might be an install deck. Then we got Houndstone. 80. Plus 10 for each Psychic Pokemon discard pile. I don't know if you can play enough Psychic Pokemon to make it good. But it's a dog. Just play it. It'll be fun. Mankey. Monkey Strike. 30 to itself. Primate. 70. 20 to itself. And now Primate evolves into Annihilate. 70 for each card your opponent has already taken. That's pretty good. And then 170 and 50 to itself. So they'll do that, but I've seen this card played just randomly. I've seen it like as a deck by itself. I've seen it with Lost Box, because you just play any freaking card you want with Lost Box. It actually does not matter. It's kind of a cool card. It looks cool too. I think the lore is like, it's so angry it died, but it's super strong now or something like that. Not sure. I just know it looks cool. And this is a fun card. This looks like a very fun card to play. We got Spiritomb. Every time someone sees a Spiritomb, like, it's going to be as good as those other 4 Spiritombs. Probably not. Choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, switch with active, and then flip 2 coins. Both their heads your opponent's knocked out. That's going to be something. I'm going to lose to that one day. I'm going to go to locals, and I'm going to get I'm going to get Spiritomb, and I'm just going to be like, yep. Paid $10 for that. But it'll be okay, because it'll be funny when it happens. Then we got Mischief, 10 and 20. Other Mischief, 30 heads discard energy, and then Mabastiff. Enraged Howling, once you get your opponent switch to active, so they get to switch. You do not get to choose who they switch to, but they have to bring a new one, which can be really annoying. 160-30 itself. It's fine. Ability is fine. We've had it on many cards before. Mighty NEX a long time ago. There's a bunch of cards. I think a Braviary or something had it too. The Tornadus that was played in Blissey has that. So there's definitely seen it before. Nothing special there. Then we got Bombardier. Junk Transport, search for 3 tools, put them in your hand, and then 60, you can't retreat to your opponent's next turn. That first attack will be good in something one day. What is that something? Yep. There's a card to look out for. It'll just be like a starter, and then this card will be in something. Like I said, they did tools for a reason, so I feel like we're going to get, like Rotom. You can put in Rotom. They knock it out, you Raihan, you just like discard all my tools, do a bunch of damage. So Rotom seems to be the tool deck, but I feel like they got something planned for the future. Those make like a Charizard EX is like 100 plus 100 for every tool you discard, and you're just like, what? Okay, Dark Charizard EX. But anyway, pretty cool, generic, help you set up card. Other got Fortress, flip a coin to get tails is 50, has a number of heads, and then 90, and then the opponent does 50 less. The first deck is pretty fortressy. Just get a bunch of heads and win your pre-release with it. Then we got Iron Treads EX, Triple Laser. This card was literally on Registeel EX from Dragons Exalted. And that only had like 40 HP less than this card. That's all I'm saying to describe the disappointment of this card to me. In terms of that. 30, 3 opponent's bench. Literally, attack was called Triple Laser. It did the same thing. Dragons Exalted, pretty sure. That was the set. I know I lost to it. It also does 160 and you switch his Pokemon. I'm just disappointed that they were like, this is what we're doing. This is what we chose to do. And depending on what Dermatober rage, you could be doing 10 all your Pokemon. I'm just kind of sad about it. Maybe one day. Man, if he rotates, they don't make the next bench thing. Right now, I'm just really sad. I'm like, this is sick. This card looks sick. This Pokemon is cool. That's crazy. Chansey, pound, and then egg roll. Flip 1 detail, 60 times number of heads. Blissey, once target you may heal all special conditions from your active. You're facing the Pavilion deck is going down. And then 150 move all energy attached to this Pokemon to one of your opponent's back. That's actually not bad. 150 for 3. Good limited card. You just put Gardenia's Vigor in your deck and just make a Blissey deck. Just 150s all around. We're doing it. Or Armor Rouge, move the energy, huh? 150, 150, 150, 150. You can tell I really love Armor Rouge the 19 times I mentioned it. But yeah, let's build Blissey Armor Rouge. Let's do it. Squovit. Once your turn, you use this ability. Shuffle your hand and put it on the bottom of your deck. Draw a card. What are you doing? Why is this? It's been popping up in Zoroark V-Star decks. Because you're like, I'm a 9-card hand. I don't really want to lose it. Because it's got a bunch of cards in it. So you do Squovit and then draw a bunch of cards. And that's pretty cool, actually. I like that purpose for it. Then you got Greedent. 50. Enhanced Fang 80 if this Pokemon has a Pokemon dual attached. It's 80 more. There are other Greedents that I believe are still legal. I think the one where like you can't be like judged or something. Or Marnie, like it's still legal. I know Marnie's rotating. But I think it works the same way with Judge. So you can just play one of those as well in it. But definitely the Squelwit in Heidi Hole will be popping up in something there. We got some in DDD. Raise Well. Search for a deck to evolve on your Pokemon. Sorry. So you just evolved a Pokemon. Not even bad. That's like fine. Hidden Legends Jirachi did that. Granted, you could attack on first. But why not? Card looks cool too. So you know what? Put this in something. Evolve it into your Arcanine that can't be pinned on the bench. I don't know. I wish the second attack was better. But first attack, pretty good. Then we got Tandem Mouse. Just, yeah. 20! Nah! Other one. So, like, if you notice, so, like, this one just screams. So, nah, as you can tell, it's doing nah. I like how they drew this one just double attacking, and they're just both running around. I think that's really funny. We got Mouse Hold. Family attack. 70 for each of your Mouse Holds in play. Play with Zoroark. your whole deck is gotten by level ball. Again, Twin Energy rotating sucks because you can't hit 280 without a choice belt against V-Stars and stuff. But this will also be a fun deck someone makes. And I will probably also lose this to locals. My opponent's will be turn 1 for Nest Ball and turn 2 for Level Ball. You silly goose. And then you play Zorak to get the Mess Holds back and keep attacking. So this will also be another fun deck. We got Squawkabilly, generic Culver Family, and generic Fly. So pretty generic. If you open this in your pack as your pre-release, play it because Culver Family is good, and you just get heads on Fly. Then we got Cyclizar, the last Pokemon of the set. Draw 2 and 100 for 3. Pretty generic there. Then we go to the trainers of the set. Electricity Generator. This card is a card. Look at top 5 cards of your deck. Choose up to 2 basic lightning and attach them to your bench lightning Pokemon in any way you like. That's pretty good. I'm gonna be real with you. That's pretty good. Even if you hit 1, that's great. Definitely popping up in the Regieleki type decks for sure. Definitely cards you're going to want to play in them. Ultra Ball, just getting repurposed to last longer. Picnic Basket, heal 30 from all Pokemon in play. Zorak V-Star becomes the best deck. We're all just playing Picnic Basket to laugh at them. Arcandy, just making a rotation so it stays longer. Rocky Helmet, like you're talking about the Cacturne, you get that to pre-release, just put on your opponent's second 50 of his Pokemon is active. They take 20. Katie, your turn ends. Shove your hand in your deck, draw 8 cards. First turn, going second in a pre-release, you're like, why I'm not attacking. Shuffle and draw 8. Then we got the other Professor, just go to draw 7. We got Arven, which is a card that's seeing a lot of play in decks because more tools, such as Forest Sealstone or Experience Share, are being played, and this card is the card to get it out since they are no longer items. Search deck for an item and a tool. I've had many games in practicing where I'm like VIP Pass Forest Sealstone or VIP Pass Experience Share or whatever my tool might be for the deck. And that's really good, I think. And I think this card is pretty cool. It's like how people are putting Irida in things, but if you don't play a water Pokemon, you might just, play Arven instead. This card will definitely find its place into decks. Miriam, Ordinary Red is gone. Shuffle 5 Pokemon from your disc pile, choose up to 5 Pokemon, show them to your opponent, shuffle them into your deck, draw 3 cards. It's what we got. People are playing Claire over it, I think, because you want it back in your hand realistically. But this card is also not bad, I think, depending what your deck is. Like, if you're playing the Mouse deck, maybe you want Miriam because you want to put 5 of them back. So, it might be this one. Not sure. But I think right now Clara is being played over Miriam. Then we got Messagoza. Once you take your turn, flip a coin of heads, search for Pokemon. Tails, nothing happens. I mean, I think, like, Lugia does play, like, 1 or 2... I guess if your deck has got a lot of Pokemon in it, that you're like, I don't care if my opponent gets heads, like Lugia, you're like, I need to do my thing and then my deck's better than you, I think that is where you're going to play this card for the most part. More to help you set up. So it'll be interesting to see, because if your deck can use Path of the Peak, you should probably play that, because like Training Court's rotating, or if you're going to use Beach Court. But this card is definitely finding 1 or 2 ofs in decks, and I know it is being played in Lugia currently to help them get Archeops, or whatever they're missing in the discard pile, because you don't have Quick Ball, so you gotta do like wacky other ways to get Pokemon in there. So, with that being said, this was the Scarlet and Violet 1 set review. I want to thank Darkside Games for sponsoring this video today. Make sure you check out their website, DarksideGames.com, or visit them if you're in the Las Vegas Valley. If you do spend $10 or more on their website and use the code DARKSIDE10, you do get 10% off your order. And if you spend $50 or more, you do get free shipping. They will be having Scarlet and Violet singles on the website, I believe, starting the 27th, available for pre-order. And they will ship as soon as they can to get you for your events. They also do have a 1K coming up the second weekend of April. It is post-rotation, so make sure you get those cards if you're going to come in from other places. It's $30 entry, cash prizes to the winner, and I believe there might be even some raffles, they told me. So with that being said, I'm Josh Hatter. This was Scarlet Violet 1. One of many. New generation of Pokemon I gotta learn. Love that for me. And I will see everybody next time on the tea table.